Hey guys, Michael J. Crawford, the Anti-Trekker here. And if you're one of those people that's been saying,
gosh, I really wish I could follow Anti-Trekker on Facebook or Twitter.
Well, now you can. Congratulations. So the links will be in the description below, but you can now follow me on Facebook at facebook.com/theantitrekker or Twitter/Anti-Trekker. So I want to give a very special shout out to Michael Cawley, who is helping me keep up with all the social media stuff, helping this old guy not seem quite so out of date. So Michael, thank you so much for your hard work. And if you guys see him in the comments, send him a little bit of love, because I wouldn't be there if it wasn't for him. But now let's get to what you're really here for, and that's me having an aneurysm.
We have analyzed your defensive capabilities as being unable to withstand us. If you defend yourselves, you will be punished.
Hey guys, first and foremost, I want to give a big thank you to my newest patron supporter, Curzon Dax. Curzon Morris. Curzon, thank you so much for your support. Without you and my other patron supporters, I could not put the time and effort I do into these videos. And as much as I would like to put more time and more effort into them, I honestly, every minute that I can spare is put into these videos, and I can spare as many as I do because of those of you that choose to support me. So thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. And for the rest of you, just for watching the videos, liking, sharing, all that good stuff, thank you so much, because you guys keep this channel going. I just can't, you blow me away. Every day, I simply am blown away by all of you. So thank you so much. I also want to answer one question that's come up a couple of times. That is, why is it that I've been focusing most of my wrath on Jerry Taylor when it is in fact Ronald D. Moore who wrote the screenplay? Well, the truth is that the script was written by Moore, but it was Taylor who came up with the frankly stupid idea behind the story. That is the concept of these individualized Borg. And while Moore tried to polish this turd as best he could, he still had to work within Taylor's structure and idea. So, f*** you, Jerry Taylor. Besides, don't you worry. Ronald D. Moore is going to get more than his fair share of hate when we get to First Contact. Trust me. Before we move forward with the next part of the review, I do want to address a couple of comments that came from the same guy, but he made a couple of really good points. So, Mr. Miles, if you're listening to this, I want you to know that the reason I didn't respond to your comments was because I wanted to actually address it in the video. The first one is about the difference between designations and names, and I brought it up before, and that they're not the same thing. And as Mr. Miles says, a proper name can be absolutely anything, including designations, and this is where we get most of the overlap. It doesn't have to convey any information at all, but designations do. They provide you with information. It conveys some kind of purpose within a system, or at least some other basic information. When it comes to individual names, our name comes first, and later we find out our role in life, but designations work in reverse. Your designation is based on your role and or position, and so on. So when 7 says she's 7 of 9 tertiary adjunct of Unimatrix 01, it is simply providing information. All right, so let's get into this for just a second. I'm going to be real brief, but I wanted to just address this. That's true and not true, because here's the thing. You're correct that in our modern society, that is absolutely true. In modern Western society, the name is simply a marker to who you are as an individual. It has nothing to do with anything about you except for possibly the family that you came from. That being said, the further back in history you go, the more utilitarian that name becomes. For example, a name like Samson was because you were literally the son of someone named Sam. There are many names that end in son because you are the son of someone else. There are many names that do in fact derive directly from what they do. One of the most common last names in the world is, well, in the Western world, is Smith. A smith is a person who works a forge. And the reason for this name was because they were people that worked that job. Many of our last names come from occupations. It's just that many of those occupations no longer exist. Also, many of our names come from locations to indicate where we are from. So very much like how 7 of 9's tertiary adjunct of unimatrix 0, you could just as easily be Samsung Crawford, meaning that you're the son of someone named Sam and you're from the ford where the crows gather, which is what Crawford actually means. So yes, the names are very utilitarian in days past, but they've evolved beyond that. The Borg are simply still in a utilitarian phase of names. So that's where I come from with the fact that Borg do indeed have names. It's just more like how we used to treat names in centuries past as opposed to today. The other comment from Mr. Miles is something else I've been wanting to say since you first started your Borg series, something you don't seem to take into account as much as I wish you would. The Borg are constantly changing. Every new civilization they associate, I assume you meant assimilate, should change them in some way or another. It makes complete sense for me that there will be unforeseen circumstances to this. So whenever the Borg act out of character, it isn't hard for me to accept. As much as the Borg wants to be perfect, they are far from it. That's another one that I have to kind of say yes and no. Yes, I would expect as the Borg assimilate new societies, that would absolutely alter the quote-unquote personality of the Borg, and I wouldn't have a problem with that. If that's what we were seeing. If we look at the evolution of the Borg from Q-Who to Best of Both Worlds to I-Borg and now to Descent, it's not a matter of them changing because of societies they've assimilated, because in Q-Who, they weren't assimilating societies at all. They were only interested in technology. In Best of Both Worlds, they have decided to assimilate humanity because I guess they decided that that would improve them. Fair enough. That is a distinct change and I have no problem with. Moving forward to I-Borg, if Hugh was going to be reintroduced to the collective and that was somehow going to affect the Borg, well, that shouldn't be if Picard had been assimilated, because Picard brought everything into the Borg that Hugh could possibly bring. And in Descent, we retcon back now that the Borg have always been about assimilating cultures and technology, which means that now all the prior history is kind of out the window. It's not that the Borg change that bothers me. It's retconning an inconsistent change that bothers me. If the Borg had simply gone from where they were in Q-Who to Best of Both Worlds, then, post Best of Both Worlds, rather than the I-Borg Descent thing, you moved on to more like how they were in Scorpion and Voyager, I would have been okay with that. But the fact that Hugh completely, fundamentally shifted the collective, and we'll get into the details of that as we get further into the Descent review, it's inconsistent with everything we've seen before, and it's inconsistent with what comes later. So there's just what I want is what anybody should want in good writing. I want consistency. I want the Borg to follow their own rules. Last time on Anti-Trekker, we discussed the fact that in order for this premise to work at all, that is, for the Borg to suddenly become individuals after exposure to Hugh's memory, requires the story to be a massive retcon, and even then is logically inconsistent at best. Picard asks Riker if the Borg attempted to assimilate anyone, and Riker restates that the new Borg seem only interested in killing and destruction. Picard then puts the final nail in the coffin of logical consistency for this episode.
The Borg's entire existence was centered around acquiring cultures and technology. That's changed, and they must have a new objective.
If the entire existence of the Borg is based on assimilation of cultures and technology, then that contradicts everything we have seen from the Borg up to this point. Plus, it makes the matter of Hugh rejoining the collective causing more problems and is more problematic than ever. But whatever. Quantum. Picard orders Worf to post armed officers on every deck because reasons. And then they tells Riker to look over the scans of the ship. Wait, you mean they haven't been looking over the scans they took of the alien ship all along? Whatever. Quantum. And then he says that he's going to give Starfleet a call. Okay. Meanwhile, in engineering, we find out that not only can Data take his stress time off in the middle of a possible invasion, it is also apparently perfectly okay for him to take up the time of the ship's chief engineering officer to figure out why he's had a bad case of the bummers. Because, you know, Geordi has nothing better to do, like maybe going over those scans of the Borg ship. Or maybe figuring out how they opened up that transwarp conduit thingy. F*** you, Jerry Taylor. Anyway, despite the fact that Geordi should be working on the real problems, they do have an interesting discussion on the concept of emotion. How do you describe emotion without using emotion? Data asks Geordi to describe what it is like to be angry. Geordi tries, but he keeps saying, for example, to be angry is to feel malice or something like that. And after a few attempts, Geordi simply throws up his hands and gives up. And he says, I just feel angry. And Data echoes that back to Geordi, saying that he just felt angry. While the scene is not badly done or anything, Geordi is supposed to be very intelligent, but he comes across as someone who is kind of ignorant as to how Data works. And of course, Data himself is coming across as kind of ignorant as to how Data works. I would have written it so that Geordi said something like this. Well, Data, the emotional response of anger is an involuntary urge to cause harm to a person or thing because you perceive it to have either harmed you, harmed something you care about, or is threatening to harm you or something you care about. But then again, the problem here is not the definition of what anger is. After all, Data can tell you the definition of any word in any language that he's ever been exposed to. If Data experienced a genuine emotional outburst, with his incredible intellect, he should be able to deduce that he did indeed experience an emotion. Further, he should immediately realize that the strange behavior of the Borg may well have something to do with it, since we know from Best of Both Worlds that Data and the Borg are indeed compatible technology. But then, I guess they just kind of forgot about that part. Geordi asked Data if it was a genuine emotion. How is that even possible? And despite the fact that Data should have been able to list at least a dozen reasons, somebody secretly implanted Soon's emotion chip in him, some kind of malfunction, transmission from the Borg, etc., he just suggests the one thing that makes no sense whatsoever.
How is that possible? I do not know. Perhaps I have evolved to the point where emotions are within my grasp. Perhaps I will experience other emotions as time goes by. Yeah, I hope you're right. I'd hate to think that anger is all you're capable of feeling.
So the two smartest people on the ship, and indeed two of the smartest people in all of the Federation, are speculating about the idea that a machine just suddenly evolved to be able to feel emotions. Like I said, these are supposed to be two of the greatest minds in engineering. But nope, Data and Geordi are dumb. And quantum. F*** you, Jerry Taylor. F*** you. F*** all of this. I just can't take this. So, Admiral Nietzsche shows up to take command of the situation. She goes over the tactical situation, Starfleet deployment, all that, gives Picard his task force to command. He's going to have 3 ships under his command during this crisis. She then proceeds to dress down Picard for letting Hugh go back to the collective after nursing him back to health and treating him like a guest, when they had figured out a way to destroy the collective via a form of computer virus. Picard tries to defend what they did as being the moral imperative, since Hugh, after being disconnected from the collective, became an individual. But the problem here is that the only reason that what Picard did was the right thing is because the writers decided that it was the right thing. Keep in mind that at least until the retcon that is this episode, the Borg are not a race of people like the Klingons or the Vulcans. They are more like a singular entity, a huge entity, much like the aliens from Operation Annihilate from the original series, where their cells were physically separated and just incredibly huge. The Borg, likewise, are a single consciousness spread out among millions of physical bodies, but they were all one being. There is truly only one Borg. So their plan using Hugh to infect the collective would have killed one Borg, a singular creature that was attempting to enslave the entire Alpha Quadrant. Picard had a chance to stop a being that was literally trying to take over all life as we know it, and he didn't because he felt bad for its missing toenail clipping. Now, for those of you that don't get that reference, check out my review of I, Borg. Anyway, assuming that we're talking about the Borg we have seen from Q-Who all the way up to I, Borg, then Nietzsche is 100% right. However, with the latest retcon of the Borg, they have been apparently assimilating other species now for centuries. And we know that from what we saw with the assimilation and subsequent release of Picard, that all of those alien species that were assimilated could be freed. All of them could be saved. If that's the case, then Picard is 100% right. Is it really too much to ask for just a little bit of consistency here? F*** you, Jerry Taylor. Anyway, Picard insists that he was bound by his duty and conscience to do the right thing, to which Admiral Nietzsche says,
But I'm also bound by my oath and my conscience to uphold certain principles. I will not sacrifice them in order
Your priority is to safeguard the lives of Federation citizens, not to wrestle with your conscience. I want to make it clear that if you have a similar opportunity in the future, an opportunity to destroy the Borg, you are under orders to take advantage of it.
Now look, I know that Nietzsche is supposed to be the standard borderline evil admiral who's just a jerk character, but let's be real, she's right. It is the duty of the military to defend against the enemy in any way necessary, or in the case of the Borg, possible. Oh, wait, Starfleet's not the military, you say. Well, she did just say,
Your priority is to safeguard the lives of Federation citizens, not to wrestle with your conscience.
Notice the key term in that? No? Okay, I'll fill you in. If Picard's duty is to protect the civilian population, then by implication, Picard himself is not a civilian. Picard is in the military. Anyway, Data finally decides to go to Troy. You know, it's kind of funny, actually, if you think about it. Troy is the ship's counselor, and yet when somebody is troubled, like they have a genuine psychiatric need, they never go to Troy first. They go to their friends, they go to Guinan, they go to Picard, they go anywhere but Troy. Her office must be the most boring place on the ship because nobody is ever bothering to line up at the door to get counseling. You would almost think that Troy's really, really bad at her job. Well, after Data explains that he has tried several ways to get an emotional reaction, including inspirational opera, comedies on the holodeck, and porn, she suggests that he tried to get angry again. Data points out that he does not want to focus on the negative emotions, to which, and man, I wish I was just making this up, Troy suggests that no emotion is good or bad. It's only what you do with them. To which Data retorts that hatred and jealousy are inherently bad. To which Troy just shrugs it off, saying that an exploration of anger need not lead to malice or hate. Wow. So Data, the emotionless robot, is better at understanding emotions than Troy. Yet he keeps wandering around the ship asking everybody what the definition of anger is. F*** you, Jerry Taylor. So Data then tells Troy that after he killed the Borg, he felt pleasure. And Troy immediately reports this to Picard that Data should be confined to quarters. She does nothing because, f*** you, Jerry Taylor. F*** you. F*** this story. I am just done with it. You guys can't.
We are the Borg. Resistance is futile.
You will lower your shields and click on the like button and leave a comment for the anti-tracker. If you have not before, you will hit the subscribe button and the notifications icon so that you can hear more from the anti-tracker. If you have suggestions on how to improve this channel, you will leave a comment in the comment section below. If you appreciate the work put into these videos, you will go to https://www.patreon.com/Michael J. Crawford, link below, and support this channel. Excuses are irrelevant. You will comply.